Welcome back, everybody. This is part 2 with Dr. N. It's Dr. June and Dr. Isabel. And we're going to be talking a little bit more about doshas and how we need to address them according to our lifestyle and profession. Thank you, Dr. N, for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me again. And it's a great sharing all this wisdom that can help many people, right? Yeah. So I believe we were going to talk about how the person or what eating, let's say exercising and eating according to your dosha, right? Which is the body type, right? And also the profession and the lifestyle.
Yeah.
So how one should balance all, and where this particularly the doshas that we talked about into the earlier part, Vata, Pitta, Kapha, what role they can play into choosing your eating, which is your diet, your exercise, which is your livelihood, right? Your profession, and all those make up your lifestyle. So how being mindful about these doshas can help us, choose these things into the balance, right? So as we talked about our constitution, which is prakriti, right? So eat and exercise according to your prakriti. Prakriti is our basic constitution that we know, right? And that is fixed at the birth, right? And those are our traits, but that prakriti has the tendency to accumulate. And many of these attributes are genetic, like, you are what you came with, right?
Right.
But many are genetic, but many other are also acquired through your diet, emotions, environments, climates, living conditions, your profession, right? So all those things does play a big role in fluctuating them, right? Yeah.
Of course, the epigenetics, basically.
Right, exactly. The epigenetics make it fluctuate, right? But we know that we can change the epigenetics, right? Going to the root of it. And yes, so we know now with the newer science that you are not a slave of, that's where the whole quantum theory comes in beautiful, that we are not a slave of our genes anymore.
Correct.
But where this Ayurveda part helps us is to reach to that seed from where it all came in through the quantum leap, quantum connections, entanglement. We can reach there and we can rebuild it. So it's all beautiful that doshas are not just there to keep us in balance. Actually, when we manage it, they actually gives us the great base of the perfect health and the vitality, right? So those imbalances, as we say, that our surrounding and the epigenetics like bring the imbalance, what in Sanskrit or in Ayurveda there is a word called the vikruti, which is the imbalances, right? And when they get accumulated, as we say, that if the Vata person, Pitta person, Kapha person gets imbalanced, those vikrutis or imbalances get accumulated, right? And they get accumulated into the dis-ease, the feeling of not having ease. And the dis-ease, we name it into all this different disease that the person can come out with. So for example, the Vata person, if they get imbalanced through all these environmental factors, they could come up with the anxiety kind of disorder, the Parkinson's anxiety, osteoporosis, the bone related issue. If the Pitta kind of people gets imbalanced through all these environmental factors, that includes their lifestyle and everything, right, that plays a role, they could come up with the anxiety, anger, peptic ulcer, skin kind of inflammatory disease, things like that. The Kapha type of people, when it gets imbalanced, right, they could come up with the diabetes, cardiovascular disease, the visceral fat related issues, things like that. Yeah. So now it also depends on, so it's the feedback mechanism that you can balance it also through the diet and the activities that you could choose, right? And that includes your profession also, right? So for example, the Vata type of person, right? Because they are airy, they're on the space, right? The type of exercise that they should choose should be more towards grounding, which could be the swimming more than running athlete, right? Which could be even the simple walk or the water related sports, things like that, right?
Hiking. Oh.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, the leisure hiking into the nature than running the tracks, right? So also the profession that they would choose. Now think about it, that the Vata type of people, Vata is here. So is our brain activities are here, right? So they will be more prone. They're very creative people, right? But if they are into that same profession, right, now they're going to be imbalanced. So if the Vata type of person is an educator or the scientist or somewhere where they have to constantly keep on using their creativity, they're going to go imbalance, right? So not that you should not choose that kind of profession, but you can balance it, right? So instead of 8 hours brain work, you can try to kind of break it down and say, 4 hour brain work, go out and take a stroll into the nature. But when you are going out to disconnect those neuronal activities from that part, and you're going out, some people go to the gym.
So more grounding. They need to ground
Right.
themselves.
Right. So that is where, like, eat and exercise according to your dosha, your lifestyle, and your profession, right? So that is like one example of the Vata type of people. So yes, today we cannot avoid the profession, but if we have a choice, then you should look into the profession which is more of the grounding kind of profession, maybe like a little bit of where you have to do the gentle physical work, not the labor, but the gentle physical. So like come out and probably do the work into the yard or something like that, things like that, right? Yeah. For the Pitta kind of people, so again, for the Vata kind of people, the profession does matter, right? So choose it accordingly, so that it doesn't get balanced. That includes your lifestyle, because your profession literally gears your lifestyle, right? Yeah. So for example, also like the Vata type of peoples, now it's a little bit, side, but it's also like during the day, we talked about the seasons, about how the Vata Pitta Kapha season. Also, the day has a period of the Vata Pitta Kapha too.
Right.
And that matters. So from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. is the Kapha time. From 10 to 2 is Pitta. And from 2 to 6 is Vata.
Okay.
Right? So also choosing your activities and things like that accordingly the daytime. So of course your lifestyle is weaved around your profession, right? And how you can balance. So during that time, you can take a support of probably the food to balance your dosha, right? So you must eat accordingly, the time of the day, the type of the emotion, the type of the work, and choose your activities accordingly. For example, for Pitta kind of people, they should be avoiding the competitive kind of exercises, like the where there is a competition. The same thing is like even into the profession, if it is a competitive profession where they have to constantly prove themselves, right? They should be avoiding it because that's going to imbalance them. Because remember, the imbalance of a pitta is the anger, and suppressed anger will end up into the ulcers and things like that, right? So the pitta type of people should, and so is the competitive sports, also. So again, they should be choosing something which is not competitive.
More
Right.
research and more using their brain.
Right. Yes.
Mind.
They
Yes.
grounding,
Grounding.
Grounding.
themselves, right? Right. Yeah. So those kind of things that the pitta kind of, instead of going and being the fixer,
Yes.
right? Because pitta type of people are fixers. Everything's about the perfection, right? And that perfection draws them towards the competition, right?
But what
So,
about the kapha people?
so the kapha type of people is opposite to vata type of people, right? So now the vata type, kapha type of people actually need to do the exercises which make them sweat. Okay, so they need the movement, right? So they should be doing, the running, the weightlifting, they should be avoiding swimming, the leisure walks and things like that, because they need a stimulation, right? And the same thing with we discussed about their diet, right? So stimulating, because they have a tendency to build up, right? So the kapha type of people more, about like the vigorous movement, right? They will be also good into workforce kind of profession also, instead of being the sedentary job, right? So the kapha type of people should be very careful, if they are the creative people, because vata and kapha goes as a seesaw. So if they are creative, and say, for example, if they are IT people and they want to sit, 8 hours and do the work on that profession is going to throw them off, because now it has made them a sedentary. Right. So then they need to have the stimulating kind of food. They need to get up and sweat themselves, to choose the exercises. And for them, it is okay to take a break after 4 hours and go to the gym and do the workout and come back. Right. So, yeah.
So it gets a little complex with all the changes that we have to do according to the hour, the season, the body type. So to summarize, what will be like an easy solution for people to follow, even if they don't know what type of dosha they have? I'm
Okay.
thinking more like a mindful eating for everybody, selecting the right foods. What else do you recommend? So something easy for people to follow.
Right. So the little easy thing, as we say, that there are all the guidelines, right? So as a guideline, and I'm sure nowadays, and if you need it, you can actually go from my website to, there is a site for the Ayurvedic, and the first thing it comes out is like determine your dosha. So it's like a little quiz thing, right? But when anybody takes that, it's like the simple that the kapha type of people are the stout and built, the pitta are the moderate, and the vata are the thin and the tall build. So that gives like the little guideline about what basic you are, and then you can follow the simple guidelines of that. If you are like, see who you are. Now we're not talking about the deep-seated imbalances, right? So people could even think about what they were like in the childhood, right? Things like that. And then the simple guideline is like, okay, if you're a vata type, avoid the dry things, avoid the too much mental activities, have the balanced and the healthy fat. Try not to have, raws and the salads and the things like that. That's like the simple guidelines, right? The Pitta kind of people, because they are of course moderate, but they have the fire, and they can go back to their childhood and see like what kind of person they were and relate it to that, and not just the immediate environmental changes. So the immediate environmental changes normally do get built up like 20-30 years, and they think that, oh, this is what I am now. But they can go back to their birth time. And the Pitta kind of people, of course, be watchful about the anger, watch their anger. This is where we are bringing definitely the mind into it everywhere. There is the mind-gut relationship. There is the hypothalamus pituitary, adrenal axis, and how they relate all those hormones also. So the Pitta kind of people in general avoid the spices, avoid stimulating, avoid competitive sports, avoid sweating kind of things. Try to have, like the calmer atmosphere, cooler atmosphere, and even with the food and the environment and the activities that they choose, right? The Kapha type of people in general, they need to move. So they need to keep that check into, so they can use generally add the spices like the gingers, even sometimes the chili, things like that into their diet that can stimulate, their metabolism, right? And choose the profession that forces them to get up and move every certain hours, right? Choose the exercise which makes them sweat, right? So in general, I hope I was able to summarize it, because
Yes.
it's pretty deep in a way that it takes like almost 7 to 8 years to figure out and consult an individual to the depth. So I tried my best just to give you the general, right?
Yes, no,
But
that
it's,
was perfect. Thank
Yes,
you so
thanks so
much.
much, Dr.
Thank you for
Nisha.
being with us.
Yes.
yeah,
And we'll hope to
likewise.
talk with you again soon.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for
Thank you much.
inviting me.